First and foremost, we want to give all praise and honor to the Most High Ahaya, the Hashem Yeshaya, Wabawak. We welcome you to another edition of the GOCC Sabbath lesson. Again, the title of today's lesson will be The Sons of Belial. So if you're not familiar, many of you may have read that title or that reference throughout the Bible and may not be sure exactly what or who that term is in reference to. So that's what we're going to be touching on today with our lesson. And again, if you have any questions after we finish, we're going to open up for a few moments of questions to make clear anything that may not be clear. So we're going to first start off with the introduction, and then we'll get into the scriptures. Okay.
Through many times in history, throughout several different doctrines, it has been taught that the sons of the Most High who came down and slept with the daughters of men were actually the sons of Seth. Is this the truth, or is there a purposed cover-up due to several factions of Christian leaders actually worshiping these fallen entities? Let us take a look at the matter.
Right. So we understand that there's been a cover-up in the identity of the sons of God who came down and slept with the daughters of men. How many of you are familiar with the sons of Seth position on that topic? The idea that the sons of Seth came down in Genesis 6, dealt with the daughters of men, and that proceeded forth a race of, I guess they would say, mixed breed people, which now began to perform wickedness on the earth, by which the Most High now had to send the flood to destroy mankind and start anew. So that's the position that you'll hear a lot often in different sects of Christianity, even though there's some who will go into the information concerning the sons of God and their true identity as fallen angels. Many will uphold the position of the sons of Seth, and we're going to find out the reason behind that. But before we do so, we're going to go into the scriptures, and we're going to first start with the account in which the sons of God began to deal with the daughters of men. Okay? And that historical account can be found in the book of Genesis, the 6th chapter, and we're going to start at the first verse.
Genesis chapter 6, verse 1. And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose.
So we're told in the book of Genesis, the 6th chapter, starting at the first verse, that it came to pass when men began to multiply upon the face of the earth, that daughters were born unto them. So we see before the first or the second verse that people are already multiplying. The sons of God have not yet come down upon the earth. People are multiplying, things are normal. Okay? It's not until the second verse that we see that a new form of creature begins to develop in the earth. And we're going to see the reason behind that. But let's read the second verse again.
That the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair.
So the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair. Go ahead.
And they took them wives of all which they chose.
And they took them wives of all which they chose. So we have a scenario in which the sons of God take wives upon the earth. Okay. Verse 3.
And the Most High said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years.
So the Most High says that his spirit will not always strive with man, but that his days will be 120 years. Now, in the past, we have showed how this in some degree deals with the life expectancy of men after the flood. Okay? But there's also a deeper understanding of the 120-year prophecy. We know this is also dealing with a time of jubilees, which will lead until the time of consummation. We covered this information in a lesson titled The Secrets of the Times. Verse 4.
There were giants in the earth in those days.
So it tells us that when the sons of God came unto the daughters of men and took wives of all which they chose, that giants began to be born in those days. Okay? Giants began to be born in those days. This is the first time we're seeing this inordinate life form, which the Bible calls again giants. In the Hebrew, it's Nephilim or Nephilim. Go ahead.
And also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men, which were of old men of renown.
So they became mighty men of old, men of renown. So these creatures became famous throughout history for their size, as well as their feats and the different sorts of abilities that they possessed. Okay? Sort of what we would consider today to be quote unquote superheroes. Okay? Job 1 and 6. And we go to Job 1 and 6 to identify who these sons of God are. Because again, there's much speculation, there's many different doctrines out there which claim to identify who the sons of God are. Okay? So again, there's two possible positions when it comes to identifying who these are. Either they're the sons of Seth or angelic beings. We're going to go to the book of Job, the 1st chapter and the 6th verse, to develop the biblical identity of the sons of God. Job 1 and 6.
Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Most High, and Satan came also among them.
So it says, there came a day in which the sons of God came to present themselves before the Most High, and Satan came also among them. So we see that this is the sons of God communing with the Most High. And Satan also came among them. This is when Satan still had entrance into the heavenly realms, Lawya. Okay? How do we know that this conversation is taking place in the heavens? We're going to go to the book of Job, chapter 1, and we're going to read verse 7.
And the Most High said unto Satan.
So this is the Most High speaking directly unto Satan.
Whence comest thou?
Whence comest thou? In other words, where are you coming from?
Then Satan answered the Most High and said, from going to and fro in the earth.
So he says, from going to and fro in the earth. So if Satan just came from going to and fro in the earth, where is he now? He's now in the heavens, presenting himself before the Most High God and the angels. Okay? So this is to show you the identity of the sons of God. All right? Another scripture to do so. This is the book of Job, chapter 38 and verse 4.
Where wast thou when I had laid the foundations of the earth?
So now a question is being asked. Where wast thou when I laid the foundations of the earth? Where wast thou when I laid the foundations of the earth? So what time period is the Most High reflecting on? The beginning, the creation, in which the earth and the heavens were being made. in which the foundations were being established. Go ahead.
Declare if thou hast understanding.
Declare if thou hast understanding. Go ahead.
Who have laid the measures thereof, if thou knowest, or who have stretched the line upon it, whereupon are the foundations thereof fastened, or who laid the cornerstone thereof? When the morning stars sang together.
So if we can all agree that this is reflecting back to the beginning when the foundations of the heavens and the earth were being formed, then we get a timestamp on when verse 7 is taking place. Read verse 7 again.
When the morning stars sang together.
So back during the foundations of the earth, when everything was being formed, the morning stars all sang together.
And all the sons of God shouted for joy.
And all the sons of God shouted for joy. So this is what you would call primeval or prehistory. This is before the existence of men. This is before the sons of Seth. This is before the daughters of Cain. Okay? And yet, we have an identity of the sons of God being shown within Scripture. Okay? So automatically, and of course there's many other things we can go into, but automatically off of this verse alone, we can move the whole sons of Seth position to the side. Okay? Because this is taking place, the sons of God existed long before the sons of Seth. Okay? But now with further information in the New Testament, because some people may ask, well, what is the importance of this topic? Well, it's a very important topic if we have the apostles and the disciples and those who learned from Christ going back and referring to these stories, referring to this information from the beginning, referring it to a time in which the sons of God dealt with the daughters of men, and how that will affect us as well as them in judgment. Okay? So let's go to the book of 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 4 in the New Testament. And we're going to see what Peter, now keep in mind that Peter was the disciple upon whom Christ built his church. So if Peter thought that this was an important topic, then it must be an important topic for us who come in that same profession. Okay? So 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 4.
For if the Most High spared not the angels that sinned.
So if the Most High spared not the angels that sinned. The question is, who are the angels that sinned? In order to find out, we have to go back to the book of Genesis, chapter 6 in the Old Testament. Okay? So let's hold 2 Peter and let's quickly go back into Genesis, the 6th chapter, to identify the angels that sinned.
And it repented.
Back at verse 1.
Genesis 6 and 1. And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. And the Most High said, my spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. There were giants in the earth in those days. And also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men which were old men of renown.
So mighty men of old, men of renown.
And
Okay. Go ahead.
And the Most High saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually.
Exactly. So after we read about the sons of God dealing with the daughters of men, we're now seeing the repercussions. We're seeing the triple effect. Now wickedness is operating amongst the sons of men. So this act that took place in the book of Genesis, the 6th chapter, was a great sin in the eyes of the Most High. that was done by the sons of God, which eventually resulted in sin being perpetuated by the sons of men. Okay? So let's go back to the book of 2 Peter chapter 2 and verse 4. And let's read that again.
For if the Most High spared not the angels that sinned.
Who are the angels that sinned? The angels in the book of Genesis, the 6th chapter. Go ahead.
But cast them down to hell.
But he cast them down to hell. Go ahead.
And delivered them into chains of darkness to be reserved unto judgment.
So they were cast into chains of darkness to be reserved unto everlasting judgment. Okay? They were reserved for judgment. Go ahead.
And spared not the old world, but saved Noah, the eighth person, a creature of righteousness.
So he spared not the old world. Why didn't he spare the old world? Due to the acts that were committed by the sons of God. Okay? So because of the wickedness they committed, the Most High sent judgment upon the old world. Okay? Go ahead.
And spared not the old world, but saved Noah, the eighth person, a creature of righteousness, bringing in the flood upon the world of the ungodly.
And bringing upon the flood of the world of the ungodly. So this was a very important topic amongst the disciples, because the things that were written aforetime are written for our learning. The same events are repeating themselves. Christ tells us that as the days of Noah, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. So during the time in which Christ will return into the earth, we're going to have similar circumstances, a similar environment that existed before the flood. So we were often reminded of this event by Christ, by the disciples. Okay? Let's jump over to the book of Jude, chapter 1, verse 6.
Book of Jude, chapter 1, verse 6. And the angels which kept not their first estate.
And the angels which kept not their first estate, again, these are the angels of Genesis, the 6th chapter, starting at the 1st verse. They kept not their first estate, which was what? The heavens. Okay? The heavens was their original habitation. Go ahead.
But left their own habitation. He had reserved in everlasting chains under darkness, unto the judgment of the great day.
Right. So again, we find in Scripture that they have been bound in hell based on their activity. So again, we ask ourselves, why is this an important topic for us? We're going to find out that if we follow in the same vein of the angels, which fell in Genesis 6, and follow the same works, the same practices, and the things that they taught before the flood, we will also meet the same fate. What is their fate? To be bound into hell for everlasting damnation and judgment. Read on.
Verse 7. Even as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities above them in like manner.
Let's jump down to verse 13 to get straight to the point.
Raging waves of the sea, foaming out of their own shame, wandering stars.
Wandering stars, which in the Greek is planetes, where you get the word planet from. This is why people may have come across our teachings in which we state there's no such thing as quote-unquote planets. The things you do see out there that they call Mars or Jupiter or Pluto, those are stars. Okay? But the term planet actually goes back to the Greek word which means a wandering star. When you look at the names that they placed on the planets, what do these names go back to? They go back to ancient gods. These are the same gods of Genesis, the 6th chapter. This is why it tells us in verse 4 that these were men of renown. They became renowned throughout history for their great powers and great feats. Today they're telling us the same exact stories, with different names and different characters, but it's all the same story. When you watch your X-Men, your Superman, okay, your Spider-Man, so on and so forth. He-Man, back in the day, you remember He-Man, okay? These are all stories telling the same exact story of the sons of God who became famous for their great might and strength. Okay? So we've been taught to endear ourselves unto these beings. We've been taught to endear ourselves unto the sons of God who sinned against the Most High by dealing with the daughters of men. Okay? How many of us during our growth haven't been able to turn on the television and enjoy an episode of Superman, Spider-Man, Batman, He-Man? We enjoyed these things growing up. This is what we looked to. This used to be our thing every Saturday morning. If we wasn't celebrating the Sabbath, the television was our altar, which we sat before and we learned and we were programmed to love these demonic entities. You see? So this is why, again, this is a very important topic until this very day, because we're still in this battle, in this fight against these sons of God. Okay? So let's move on to verse 14.
And Enoch also, the seventh from Adam, prophesied of these saying, Behold,
So who prophesied of these?
and Enoch.
And Enoch prophesied of these. And it tells us in the Apocrypha that Enoch was one of the greatest men to walk the face of the earth. So if Enoch, being one of the greatest men to walk the face of the earth, was responsible for prophesying against, as responsible for recording the information that we know that is titled the Book of Enoch, which is dealing with the fallen angels and what they taught unto men in their final judgment, then this is a very important topic for us in these last days. Okay? It tells us that Enoch prophesied of these, so Jude and the other disciples and apostles had knowledge of the records of Enoch. This was not strange doctrine unto them. Okay? Go ahead.
And Enoch also, the seventh from Adam, prophesied of these saints. Behold, the Most High cometh with 10,000 of his saints, to execute judgment upon all, and to convince all that are ungodly among them of all their ungodly deeds, which they have ungodly committed, and of all their hard speeches, which ungodly sinners have spoken against him.
So this is an exact quote from the Book of Enoch. When you get the chance, read the Book of Enoch. I'm not sure if anyone has a copy on hand. All right. Read the Book of Enoch, chapter 1, verse 9. Okay. Get this copy real quick. Oh, yes, please. We got 2 copies. Okay. All right. Yes, it's fine. It's fine. All right. It's fine. Okay. So here we have what is called the Book of Enoch. All right. Now the covers may vary. These particular records have the same cover, but there are other covers. And I will say, just a pre-warning, don't necessarily mind what you see on the front, because these don't have anything to do with what's actually inside the book. Okay, it's just a picture that they put on the front, but nonetheless, within this book, the information within it is what we must be concerned with. Because it is in this book that we find the true origin of evil, as well as the origin of evil practices, and how these practices would affect the coming generations of the earth. And it tells us in the Book of Enoch that in the last days, this book will be opened along with many of the other books that have been hidden for ages, and they will be opened unto the wise. Okay? And they who seek the Most High, and they would have the knowledge of how to identify the truth concerning the origin of evil. Okay? So when you go into this book, chapter 1, verse 9, it tells us verbatim the same exact thing we read in the book of Jude, chapter 1, verse 13 through 14. Okay? Wow. Let me make sure we got the correct one here. All right. You can pass this also. Also in the freezer, Benjamin. You can go in the freezer there on the second shelf. There's ice. If anyone needs ice water. Okay. There should be a little bit of ice in there. All right. You can probably go ahead and break it up for me. All right. So yeah, he's going to get us some ice. If anyone needs ice water, I know it's a bit warm in here. So we have some cups, we have some water. All right. I appreciate it. All right, so let's continue. Verse 15.
To execute judgment upon all, and to convince all that are ungodly among them of all their ungodly deeds, which they have ungodly committed, and of all their hard speeches, which ungodly sinners have spoken against him.
Mm-hmm.
These are murmurers, complainers, walking after their own lusts, and their mouth speaketh great swelling words, having men's persons in admiration.
Now, why does it mention that these are murmurers and complainers? After it mentions these waging waves of the sea, these wandering stars who were prophesied by Enoch, you're going to find out that the same spirit that operates within a person that's a murmurer or a complainer is the same spirit that operated with the sons of God in the beginning, that caused them and allowed them to sin against the Most High, to murmur against him, to complain against him, and eventually rebel against him. Okay? Now we're going to go into the book of Enoch. I guess I spoke too soon. I'm going to need somebody's copy here. All right. The water. All right, so we're going to go into the book of Enoch, and we're going to see what Enoch prophesied concerning these, because as we read in Jude, Enoch also prophesied of these. Okay, so let's go in the book of Enoch, chapter 6, and we're going to start at verse 1. Okay, again, there's cups, there's water if anyone needs a drink, as well as ice. Okay.
All right. Okay. And it came to pass, when the children of men had multiplied, that in those days were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters. And the angels...
So this is the same exact story that we just read in the book of Genesis, the 6th chapter. Okay, read that again.
And it came to pass, when the children of men had multiplied, that in those days were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters.
So that's what it means that their daughters were fair. I know many of you may have seen a few years ago, I think Minister Farrakhan did the Who Are the Children of Israel breakdown, and he went into Genesis 6, and he mentioned that the fairness was in reference to complexion. That's not true, okay? The fairness of the daughters of men is dealing with their beauty. Okay, not skin complexion, but beauty. All right. So, verse 2.
And the angels, the children of the heaven, saw and lusted after them.
So the angels, because of their beauty, saw and lusted after them. So yes, the angels can lust. Okay. Many of you may ask the question: do angels have free will? Do they have desires such as us? And the answer is yes. The difference is that because along with them having those desires, as we have those desires, and we can clear up anything in the future. I know many people refer to the book of Matthew where Christ says that, well, those in the regeneration shall be like the angels, neither married nor married. So people refer to that to say that, well, the angels don't marry, they don't have desires, so on and so forth. You're going to find out that that is a lie. Okay? They do have those desires, but the difference between us and the angels is that the angels, as we're going to read in the book of Enoch, they dwell in the midst of the Most High's glory. They behold the Most High's glory on a daily basis. They have already been born or created within the Most High's eventual, well, basically, to make it simple, what we're waiting for as a kingdom, they've been already born into it. Okay? So if you're beholding that day and night, There's no need for you to now give in to those desires. Whereas us, we're dealing in the empire, we're dealing in the earthly realm in which we're always subject unto things which don't take place in the heavenly realm. Okay? Such as beholding certain lust, temptations, and desires, and things of that nature. We have to behold these things on a daily basis, whereas the angels, they're dwelling in the Most High's realm. Okay? So they don't, even though they can look on the earth and see what's taking place on earth, they have a reflection on what to know, like, okay, I'm not going to give up the heavens to now be on earth amongst the wickedness of men. Okay? So this was the difference between us and the angels, and why the Most High dealt with them in the manner that he dealt with them. It's going to tell us that in the book of Enoch, the 15th chapter. Okay? But you have any more on that?
Verse 2.
You can jump down to verse 6.
Okay. And they were in all 200 who descended in those days.
So it gives us, Salaki, it gives us an exact number of how many angels fell in the beginning. There were 200 angels that descended in the days of Jared, who was the father of Enoch. When you look at his name in Hebrew, Yorad, it means to descend. Why? Because in his days, the angels descended upon the earth. Okay? How many? 200. Go ahead.
On the summit of Mount Hermon.
On the summit of Mount Hermon, which was in the land of, I believe, the tribe of Dan dwelt in the area of Mount Hermon, or Mount Hermon was located within the allotment that they took, the tribe of Dan. Go ahead.
And they called it Mount Hermon, because they had sworn and bound themselves by mutual imprecations upon it.
Right, and that name Hermon means to bind or a curse. Why? Because they bound themselves by curses when they descended upon this mountain. They made oaths, imprecations that we would all follow through with this agenda to deal with the daughters of men. This is why today when you deal in Freemasonry and other secret societies, they deal with what? Oaths. Okay, we'll bind ourselves to this wicked act. Okay, we'll all agree to do so, and whoever decides to go outside of the oath will risk their very lives, will risk death. Okay, and you have many people who have come out of these organizations that have spoken up and have come up missing. Okay, have been killed because they expose what? The so-called secrets. Okay, where do they get it from? They get it from their fathers, the fallen angels, who descended upon Mount Hermon and made curses or oaths among each other. Okay? Let's jump over to chapter 7, verse 1.
And all the others together with them took unto themselves wives, and each chose for himself one, and they began to go in unto them, and to defile themselves with them.
So they defiled themselves in this act. By the angels dealing with women, they defiled themselves. Okay? And I mention this because in popular culture, they would often like to give us the impression that an angel dealing with mankind is something to be desired. Okay, you have music which deals with how did an angel break my heart? In the arms of an angel. You're an angel in disguise. Movies like The Cities of Angels, okay, which glorify the idea of angels coming down amongst mankind, copulating, building intimate relationships. But according to the Most High, this was something that defiled the angels. They lost their honor and their glory through this act. Go ahead.
And each chose for himself one, and they began to go in unto them and to defile themselves with them. And they taught them charms and enchantments and the cutting of roots, and made them acquainted with plants.
So these are all the things that the angels taught unto mankind. Okay? Many things which are esteemed in today's if you will, scientific realm and the advancement of civilization, they often point back to these things, and how you're able to perfect these things is what makes you a great civilization. Well, these were all practices that were taught by the fallen angels, what we consider to be science or technology. Okay, go ahead.
And they became pregnant, and they bare great giants, whose height was 3,000 ells, who consumed all the acquisitions of men.
And they consumed all the acquisitions of men. So, in order for the giants to eat, what had to happen? Men had to now come to them with gifts, sacrifices for the giants to eat. Okay? So now we're dealing with the origin of sacrificing to these deities. Okay? It says they acquired all the acquisitions of men. Men would come to these things and offer to them sacrifices. Okay? Go ahead.
Who consumed all the acquisitions of men. And when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind.
So when men could no longer sustain them with their offerings and sacrifices, they then began to consume mankind. Now we see the origin of what? Cannibalism. Okay? When you read the Apocrypha in the book of Wisdom of Solomon, the 12th chapter, it tells us that the children of Canaan dealt with what? Cannibalism. These were wicked acts that were done by the fallen angels and passed down from generation to generation. And you'll find this often in ritualistic satanic sacrifices and ritualistic satanic rituals. They'll deal with the drinking of blood, cannibalism, eating human flesh. Why? Because this is the teaching of the fallen angels. Okay, go ahead.
And they began to sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish.
So they began to mix and splice all forms of creatures. Believe it or not, this is the origin of dinosaurs. Okay? Many people have speculation of where do dinosaurs come from. Some people have went as far as to say, well, hey, maybe the devil tried to trick us and he just went over the earth and planted bones all over the place. Okay? I've heard that theory before. But the reality is that dinosaurs were not created by the Most High, and they're not a trick by the devil. These were creatures that were created by the fallen angel by mixing and splicing different beings. And they're found through science. When they examine the bones of the T-Rex, I believe their thigh bone, they found that there's actual chicken DNA within a dinosaur or T-Rex's bone. And they use this to try to say that chickens evolved from T-Rexes. Okay? Which is utterly, I mean, to us, it doesn't make any sense. Okay? How did it turn from scales to now feathers? Where did the wings come from? There's many different things we can sit and argue, but this is what they do to cover up the true history of where these things come from. The reason why you can find T-Rex DNA, dinosaur DNA mixed with chicken DNA is because the origin of these creatures was through genetic splicing. Okay? If you think this is far-fetched, why do you think today your scientists are continuing this process of trying to figure out how they can mix different DNA for different purposes? Okay? Mixing the sheep with a spider so that they can produce silk for bulletproof vests. That's the only reason they need to mix a spider with sheep, to make bulletproof vests. We can buy that, right? Okay. Mixing pigs, they're even talking about mixing pigs with humans. Okay. Mixing human DNA with animal DNA so that the organs of a human can grow within an animal and they can use these organs for transplants. Okay? These are the excuses they use. They have to give you a good story and a good reason behind it so you can get behind it and back it. And hope you'll be sitting there claiming or arguing that they should continue with this research. It's a benefit to mankind. Okay? My aunt passed away because she had a bad liver and couldn't find a donor. So what if we can find a situation in which we can take the human DNA, grow it inside an animal, and now we have a situation in which we no longer have to worry about a shortage of transplants. You see, this is how they resolve it. But it all goes back to the history of the fallen angels who dwelt with mankind. Remember, this information was is just as important today as it was when it first happened during the time of Jared and Enoch and Noah. Okay? Any more?
Yes. And to devour one another's flesh and drink the blood, then the earth laid accusation against the lawless
So
ones.
the earth began to lay accusation against the lawless ones. Okay? And we often hear, as you read in the book of Genesis, the 4th chapter, when Cain slays Abel, it says what? That your brother's blood crieth out from the earth. You see? So when it says that the earth began to lay accusation against the lawless ones, all the blood of those who died, those who were innocent and were found victims of this agenda, their soul, their blood began to cry unto the Most High and make suit to the Most High, which now caused the Most High to eventually send judgment upon the earth. Okay? Let's move on to the book of Baruch in the Apocrypha, chapter 3, verse 26. We're going to speed it up here. Baruch in the Apocrypha. If anyone is wondering who is Baruch, for those who are new, Baruch was a scribe of the prophet Jeremiah. When prophets went out to speak, they had scribes to document and write down everything they spoke. And this is how we have a record of what the prophets spoke and what they prophesied in old times. Okay? So we're in the book of Baruch, chapter 3, verse 26. And you can start.
There were giants, there were the giants, famous from the beginning.
So it says, there were the giants famous from the beginning. So again, they were famous, okay, or rather infamous for their great strength, their great powers, okay, the great might. Imagine, back then there was no cranes, there was no big constructions and things of that nature. So if you have this inordinate creature that can pull a tree stump, a whole tree out of its roots and carry it on his shoulders, that's a great feat. Okay? If you can have this one beast, and they show this in some of their pictures, some of their movies, where they go back into these so-called mythical times, and they'll have a giant within their army, which can fight and destroy multiple people. And this army would be famed based on the fact that it has giants in the army. Okay? So these are things that made these giants, even though they were evil, it made them something to be reverenced in the eyes of men. Okay? They became famous, idols. Okay? They were your stars back then. Okay? Go ahead.
There were the giants famous from the beginning, that were of so great stature and so expert in war.
You see, they were of great stature and experts in war. Okay? So in times they would be used for warfare. Okay, go ahead.
Those did not the Most High choose.
Those did not the Most High choose. The Most High did not choose them. Even though man wanted to worship them and looked at them as idols and famous beings and creatures, the Most High did not choose them. Okay? The Most High didn't look on their stature and say, you know what, I'm going to use them to bring forth my covenant. I'm going to use them as my holy chosen seed. Okay? He did not choose the giants. Go ahead.
Neither gave he the way of knowledge unto them.
And he did not reveal the way of knowledge unto them. Go ahead.
But they were destroyed because they had no wisdom.
They were destroyed because they had no wisdom. Go ahead.
And perished through their own foolishness. Who had gone up into heaven and taken her and brought her down from the clouds.
So now Baruch is asking questions of who is able to obtain wisdom. The giants, just because they were strong and they had certain superhuman abilities, didn't mean they had wisdom. Didn't mean that they could obtain wisdom. Okay? Only those who the Most High chose would obtain wisdom. Okay. Let's go to Amos 2 and 9. Okay. Amos 2 and 9 through 10.
Yet destroyed I the Amorites before them, whose height was like the height of the cedars, and he was strong as the oaks.
Right. So we know the Amorites were one of the nations of Canaan that were present in the land of Canaan when the Israelites went in. It tells us scripturally that their height was as the height of what?
Their height was like the height of the cedars, and he was strong as the oaks.
They were the height, their height was as the height of cedars, and their strength was as that of the oaks. Okay? Meaning the oak trees. And if anyone has examined an oak tree, you know they're very strong trees. Very sturdy, very strong. Okay? This is how the Amorites were. Go ahead.
Yet I destroyed his fruit from above, and his roots from beneath.
Yet the Most High destroyed his fruit from above and his roots underneath. So it's using the example of a tree to describe how the Most High judged the Amorites. He destroyed his fruit from above and his roots beneath. Go ahead.
Also I brought you up from the land of Egypt, and led you 40 years through the wilderness to possess the land of the Amorite.
Right. So the Most High used us, a people who wandered in a wilderness for 40 years, to now come in and overthrow the Amorites, who were of great strength, of great height, great stature, great power. Okay? To show you that the Most High deals with the underdog, so to speak. He deals with the lowly. So with all their might and their strength, the Amorites did not have the power to overtake or defend themselves against the children of Israel. Okay? Let's move on. Book of Jasher 85 and 15. All right. Everyone well? All right. I know the heat is, yeah. I know the heat is getting there, but we'll have a few more moments. How was that working there? It's fine. So we're in the book of Jasher, chapter 85, verse 15. You can go ahead.
And Sihon sent messengers to Belial, the son of Janeas, the son of Balaam, counselor to the king of Egypt, and to Balaam his son, to curse Moab, in order that it might be delivered into the hand of Sihon. And the messengers went and brought Belial, the son of Janeas, and Balaam his son, from Pithor in Mesopotamia. So
verse you got?
Verse 15.
That's verse 15? Okay.
I apologize. I'm in chapter 84.
Okay.
I should be in chapter 85, right?
Yes, sir. 85 and 15. Go ahead.
Let us pass through thy land. We will not turn into the fields or into the vineyards. We will go along by the king's highway until we shall have passed thy border. But Sihon would not suffer the Israelites to pass.
So Sihon was the king of the Amorites. This is us petitioning to now go through the land of the Amorites. If you remember, during the time in the journey, we tried to find shortcuts, and the nations would not let us through, right?
So Sihon collected all the people of the Amorites and went forth into the wilderness to meet the children of Israel. And he fought against Israel in Jahaz.
So not only did they not let us through the land, they developed armies to now fight against us. Okay? Go ahead.
And the Most High delivered Sihon, king of the Amorites, into the hand of the children of Israel.
So the Most High delivered Sihon, the king of the Amorites, into the hand of the children of Israel. Him trying to gather his army to fight against the children of Israel was the worst mistake he made in his life. Little did he know that that was the day in which the Most High would deliver him into the hands of our fathers to destroy him. Keep in mind, these are the Amorites who were renowned for their great height, their great power and stature. But yet the Most High used little old us to overtake them and destroy them on our way to the promised land. Okay? Go ahead.
And Israel smote all the people of Sihon with the edge of the sword and avenged the cause of Moab. And the children of Israel took possession of the land of Sihon from Aram and Jabbok unto the children of Ammon, and they took all the spoil of the cities.
So we got the land anyway. They didn't want to let us through, so the Most High just said, listen, I'll put a spirit on them to now try to fight against you. You're going to destroy them, and you're going to take their land anyway. Okay? And believe it or not, this will be the story for the future journeys in the wilderness, for our future overtakings. We look at the nations gathering their armies and they're gathering their wealth, and they're not seeking to protect the children of Israel, nor give wealth unto the children of Israel. They think they're going to destroy us and take all their wealth and walk off into the sunset, okay, and live happily ever after without the children of Israel. You see? But little do they know that the Most High is allowing them to get all this power, all this wealth, just to one day hand it over to us. Okay? It tells us in what? Isaiah the 60th chapter, that the gates of the children of Israel, of Israel's kingdom, of Christ's kingdom, will be continually open, so that the Gentiles can bring their forces, meaning their riches. You see? So everything they're gathering, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, it's going to be ours anyway. So when it just says they acquired a couple of billion, I'm like, okay, that's going to be my couple of billion, or your couple of billion, okay, if the Most High permit. All right?
Verse 18. And Israel took all these cities, and Israel dwelt in all the cities of the Amorites. And all the children of Israel resolved to fight against the children of Ammon to take their land also.
So that's it on that. Okay. Let's move on to Jasher 85 and 22. Now moving to King Og. King Og, which is identified biblically as a giant. Okay, as a what you would call a Nephilim.
And the children of Israel returned and went up by the way of Bashan to the land of Og, king of Bashan. And Og, the king of Bashan, went out to meet the Israelites in battle. And he had with him many violent men and a very strong force from the people of the Amorites. And Og, king of Bashan, was a very powerful man, but Naran, his son, was exceedingly powerful, even stronger than he was.
So these were very strong beings, okay? These Nephilim, they were very strong, very powerful, you see? So in a natural sense, coming across these beings, we would assume that automatically they have the handicap against us. By default, we would assume that because of their strength and their power, they would prevail against us, you see? But the Most High is showing us through these different stories a representation of how he operates and how he works. Not because of your strength or your might will you become the victor, but through the Most High Spirit, you become the victor. Okay? Even in our salvation, he says, not by might nor by strength, but by the Spirit of the Most High. Okay? So these are representations and stories unto us to see that when we come upon these great adversities and tribulations, it's going to be through the Spirit of the Most High. You can't look at how big the adversity is and think, I can't overcome it. Okay? How much of a force the tribulation is, I can't overcome it. It's impossible. Okay? If Moses and the children of Israel could overcome these great, exceeding powerful giants in the Old Testament through the Most High, what more can we do? Okay? Through Christ and the Holy Spirit. Okay? So we're going to continue in the book of Jasher, chapter 85, verse 23. Go ahead.
And Og said in his heart, Behold, now the whole camp of Israel takes up a space of 3 parsa. Now will I smite them at once without sword or spear.
Right. Now it says we take up what? 3 parsa. A space of 3 parsa.
3 parsa.
So we're going to read the definition for parsa, which simply is a Hebrew measure of itinerant distance. 1 parcel or 1 parsa is about 4 kilometers. Approximately the distance a man can walk in 72 minutes. So that's a parsa. So read that again, where it says we were in about a parsa, 3 parsa.
And Og said in his heart, Behold, now the whole camp of Israel takes up a space of 3 parsa.
So that would be about 12 kilometers. Okay, go ahead.
Now will I smite them at once without sword or spear.
So he says, I'm going to smite them all at once without sword or spear. This is how great he was. And if the Most High allowed it, he could have accomplished what he just stated. To smite us with just 1 swipe, 12 kilometers of people. This is how great and strong he was. You see? Go ahead.
And Og went up Mount Jahaz and took therefrom 1 large stone. The length
so he took 1 large stone. So this is how he sought to achieve this feat of destroying all 12 kilometers of the children of Israel by taking a stone and rolling it upon us. So this is where we now link up in the book of, in the Old Testament, where Og picks up the stone and he tries to roll it upon the nation of Israel. Okay? So with this 1 stone rolling, he could have smote all of us at once by his power. But the Most High had other plans. Okay? Go ahead.
And he placed it on his head and resolved to throw it upon the camp of the children of Israel, to smite all the Israelites with that stone. And the anger of the Most High came.
So this shows you that these giants, they hate us with a passion. They hate the children of Israel. And it just so happens that they're over the power structure of our modern day governments. Okay? So this is why it seems everything is against us. It's because these same creatures who wanted to destroy us before we entered into the land of our glory, those same exact creatures that were operating back then are operating today. Okay? Go ahead.
And the angel of the Most High came and pierced the stone upon the head of Og, and the stone fell upon the neck of Og. That Og fell to the earth on account of the weight of the stone upon his neck. And at that time the Most High said to the children of Israel, Be not afraid of him, for I have given him and all of his people and all his land into your hand, and ye shall do to him as you did to Sion.
Right. So when we read the Bible, we only read about Moses' feat of smiting the hill of Og, if I'm not mistaken, and causing Og to drop the rock. Okay. Anyone remember that story when Og looked up and Moses came and smote the foot of Og? Okay, maybe I'm thinking about another story. Okay. In fact, we're going to get that to clarify that. Okay. But we read about what took place in the Bible, but in the book of Jasher, it goes into the spiritual aspect of what took place. The Most High sent an angel and allowed the angel to defeat Og in the spirit, which then allowed for him to be conquered physically. Okay? Go ahead.
And Moses went down to him with a small number of the children of Israel. And Moses smote Og with a stick at the ankles of his feet and
Right.
slew him.
Right, exactly. Okay. Okay, go ahead.
The children of Israel afterward pursued the children of Ab and all his people, and they beat and destroyed them till there was no remnant left of them.
So it says they beat and destroyed them till there was no remnant of them left. The mighty Amorites, all of them destroyed at the hands of the children of Israel. Why? Because the Most High was on our side. Okay? So that goes for any and every adversity we face. The Most High is on our side. It's nothing less than Og and the Amorites. Okay? It can be destroyed. It can be overcome. Okay? That's it on that? So let's let's go to Jeremiah 51 and 19. In fact, let's go a little bit further here. Let's go into 2 Samuel 21 and 20. All right. Just for a quick reference, Jeremiah 51 and 19 tells us that the portion of Jacob is not like them. Okay, for he is the former. Let me get that. He is the former of all things, and the rod of his inheritance. The Lord of hosts is his name. Then it goes on to tell us that we are his battle axe and weapon of war. Okay? We are his battle axe and weapon of war. So now going into the book of 2 Samuel, the 21st chapter, we're going to read about, I believe this is during the time of David. David and the Nephilim that dwelt at Goth. Okay? So let's read this in 2 Samuel chapter 21, verse 20.
And there was yet a battle in Goth, where was a man of great stature, that had on every hand 6 fingers, and on every foot 6 toes.
Right. So one of the indicators in identifying these creatures was that they had 6 fingers and 6 toes. And in archaeology, they're finding these creatures with large stature, 6 fingers and 6 toes, to show you that these are not fairy tales. These are not things that people just cooked up and made up as a way to tell a fanciful, embellished story. These are true events that took place. And as I always say, that if people don't believe that these things are true, they're going to have enough proof in these last days when certain things start taking place and certain things are released on this earth. You're going to have enough proof to see exactly what the Most High have been mentioning and what we've been teaching through the Spirit of the Most High in these scriptures concerning these creatures. Okay? So let's read the book of 2 Samuel chapter 21 and 20.
And there was yet a battle in Goth, where was a man of great stature, that had on every hand 6 fingers, and on every foot 6 toes, 24 in number. And he also was born to the giant.
Go ahead.
And when he defiled
so this
Israel,
was a child of a giant. Go ahead.
And when he defied Israel, Jonathan the son of Shemaiah, the brother of David, slew him. These 4 were born to the giant in Goth, and fell by the hand of David and by the hand of his servants.
So again, we see an example of how these giants, which were worshipped, when you read the story of David and Goliath, it tells you that he was the champion of the Philistines. The champion was the one who stood and fought the cause of the people. Okay? So when it was time for a great battle, he was the one they looked to as their champion. Okay? So these were great men of great strength. Okay? But yet the Most High used David, which according to Scripture was really a pretty boy, one who was not looked to be seen as a warrior or a great fighter, one who led the sheep, okay, was of a very beautiful, very handsome countenance. All right, this would not be a man you would look for in warfare, but yet the Most High used him as a shepherd to destroy all of his enemies, including the giants. Okay? So it says, read that again, verse 22.
These four were born to the giant in Gath, and fell by the hand of David and by the hand of his servants.
So these giants fell at the hand of David and his servants. And again, if anyone thinks that this is a fairy tale, the idea of having 6 fingers and 6 toes. We have articles here which actually, I'm just going to read the titles here. This is coming out of Brazil. It says, crossing fingers. Family with 6-fingered hands rooting for Brazil to win 6th World Cup title. This is a family of people with 6-fingered hands out of Brazil. Okay. There's another article here. You're not going to read them. You can actually go back and check these articles when you get the chance. There's a YouTube video. I believe it's of the same exact family. And there's a picture. In fact, this one says here, 12-fingered family spreads World Cup chair. So I'm assuming all together, 6 on one hand, 6 on the other, 12 fingers. Okay. All right. I'm thinking, okay, they're on the next level of this thing here. Right? But yeah, so they got 12 fingers, spread chair for the World Cup. All right. So why are they promoting these things? Now, even though this family here, I don't know if they are descendants of Nephilim or whatever the case may be. We'll leave it to they have 6 fingers and 6 toes, okay, or just 6 fingers. But why are they pushing these things and getting people acclimated with the idea of having 6 fingers or 6 toes? Well, again, they know there will come a time in which these beings will be released and will come to the forefront of society. And they're going to have these abnormalities. I'm pronouncing that correctly. Okay? So when they start releasing these things, it becomes what? It becomes normal. Hey, there's families in Brazil with 6 fingers. There's people out there with 6 toes. This is nothing strange. You see? So you become acclimated with these ideas. Okay? So going back. So we found those to be pretty interesting articles. Moving back into the book of the Apocrypha, Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14, verse 6. All right, and we're actually coming to a close. So we have Wisdom of Solomon 14 and 6 in the Apocrypha. We're going to try to speed up so that we can catch all of the key points.
Wisdom of Solomon, 14th chapter, verse 6. For in the old time also, when the proud giants perished, the hope of the world governed by the hand escaped in a weak vessel and left to all ages a seed of generation.
Right. So when you read Wisdom of Solomon, the 14th chapter, of course, this is going into the origin of idols. And it's showing that how, in one instance, wood could be used to save life. The example is going back to Noah and the ark. That's an example of how wood was shaped and used to save life. But then it also gives the example of how that same wood can now be taken and shaped and turned into an idol to be worshipped. You see? So now it makes mention here, using Noah as an example in verse 6. It says what?
For in the old time also, when the proud giants perished.
It calls them the proud giants. Why were they proud? Because of their stature and their strength. They became proud. They could kill anyone they sought to. They had the strength to deal with armies of people at one time as far as murdering them. They became worship. So through this, they built up a sense of pride. Okay? Go ahead.
The hope of the world, governed by thy hand, escaped in a weak vessel.
So the hope of the world was governed by the hand of the Most High, through which in a weak vessel, meaning Noah's ark, go ahead,
and left to all ages a seed of generation.
so out of this weak vessel, this ark made of wood, he left to us an age, or to all ages, a seed of a generation, meaning that all generations for all ages to come would descend from off of this boat. Remember, Shem, Ham, and Japheth gave rise or gave birth to all of the nations after the flood. All right? So all nations for all ages came off of this ark, this ship. Okay? So again, it shows you that even though the giants in their strength were destroyed, and those who were seemed to be in a weak disposition, or those who seemed to be down and out and without hope, were saved by the Most High. Okay? So this is the example, another example of that, of what we were going into earlier. Enoch, the 15th chapter, that's what we were mentioning earlier. We're going to skim through that. Enoch 15, we're going to start at verse 1. And we're going to jump around. I'm not going to read the whole chapter. You have to go by the numbers. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And he answered and said to me, and I heard his voice, Fear not, Enoch, thou righteous man and scribe of righteousness. Approach hither and hear my voice.
Mm-hmm.
And go say to the watchers of heaven, who have sent thee to intercede for them, you should intercede for men and not men for you.
Right. So now you see this order taking place with the watchers. Here it is, you have watchers who their sole purpose was to watch over mankind and act as intercessors between man and the Most High. Now you have these same beings, through their sin, seek to use Enoch as their intercessor, throwing off the Most High's order. Okay? So they try to use Enoch to go before the Most High and plead their cause. The Most High responds to Enoch and says that, how is it that the watchers, the angels of heaven, are seeking you to come and speak for them, when they were created to speak for you? Okay? So now the Most High is pronouncing judgment against the watchers. Go ahead.
Verse 3. Wherefore have ye left the high, holy, and eternal heaven, and lain with women, and defiled yourselves with the daughters of men?
So this is everything the Most High is giving to Enoch to now relay unto these giants, or these watchers.
And,
right?
And taken to yourselves wives, and done like the children of earth, and begotten giants as your sons.
Mm-hmm.
And though ye were holy, spiritual, living the eternal life.
So they were holy and spiritual in living the eternal life. There was no need for them to now go into earth and seek to deal with the daughters of men for the purpose of raising children or begetting children. All right? There was no purpose. So this is why the Most High judged them in the manner that he judged them. Whereas we can operate in a certain manner and there's repentance for us. But we're not dwelling in the high holy heavens. We're not living the eternal life. We're bound and subject to the flesh. Okay? Whereas the angels, they're in the spiritual realm beholding the Most High. They're already eternal. We're trying to fight to be eternal. They're already eternal. There's no need for them to deal with women and beget children. Okay? So let's jump down to verse 8.
And now the giants who are produced from the spirits and flesh shall be called evil spirits upon the earth, and on the earth shall be their dwelling.
Right. So now we have the origin of demonic spirits. Okay. Demonic spirits descend from the union of angels and women. Their children, which were Nephilim, once they died, these spirits would proceed from their flesh. And these would now be called evil spirits or demons upon the earth. So when people have unhealthy desires, unhealthy temptations, so on and so forth, you have to remember that all of these things that we battle against and all of these spirits that attack us are the same spirits which had these insatiable appetites, which sought the acquisitions of men, which were murderers, okay, complainers, devious, dubious spirits, okay? So now when we're experiencing these same things, we have to realize that this is coming from a force which is use and was pretty much the origin of these creatures was in a sinful nature, okay? So it gives instruction. I'm not sure if we're going to go into it today, but in depth, but it gives us instruction on how to get rid of these spirits, which is fasting. All right. So let's read on.
And now the giants who are produced from the spirits and flesh should be called evil spirits upon the earth, and on the earth shall be their dwelling. Evil spirits have proceeded from their bodies, because they are born from men, and from the holy watchers is their beginning and primal origin. They shall be evil spirits on earth, and evil spirits shall they be called. As for the spirits of heaven, in heaven shall be their dwelling. But as for the spirits of the earth, which were born upon the earth, on the earth shall be their dwelling. And the spirits of the giants afflict, oppress, destroy, attack, do battle, and work destruction on the earth.
So these are the attributes of the evil spirits. These were all things that the giants did when they were operating on the earth. So now these spirits that proceed from them will achieve the same exact acts, or perform the same exact acts, would have the same exact attributes. Okay? Affliction. Affliction, whether it be affliction between two people having issues, causing some level of affliction between two people, or affliction within your own body, sicknesses, diseases. Okay, the scriptures also speak of affliction of the flesh through sickness. These are all things which are a result of these demonic spirits. Okay, it says they oppress, they destroy, they attack, they do battle. Remember, they were known for great warfare. All right. So, you know, in certain aspects, there's rituals that warriors would take on in order to assume and attach themselves to these spirits, because these spirits are known for great battle. So when you read throughout history some of these great warriors, you got to look into some of the things they dealt with. A lot of them dealt with dark arts. Okay? It says they work destruction on the earth and cause trouble. Go ahead.
They take no food, but nevertheless hunger.
So they take no food, nevertheless they hunger and thirst, which means what? Even though they can't physically eat because they're spirits, they still have the cravings and the desires of hunger and thirst. So you'll notice sometimes when you're battling or you're depressed or you're dealing with something that's not of the Most High, you'll find yourself constantly consuming or seeking or feeling the need to consume food. Okay? Why? Because these spirits tick off those cravings, okay, those desires to continually eat, drink, eat, drink, eat, drink, okay? And it forms the spirit of gluttony, all right? So how do you defeat this? Through fasting and prayer, okay? Go ahead.
They take no food, but nevertheless hunger and thirst, and cause offenses.
They cause offenses. When offenses take place, understand that these spirits are operating somewhere in the midst. Because usually an offense can be something through a miscommunication, lack of communication, a misunderstanding. But what these spirits will do is they will magnify, instead of you getting to the root of the issue, it would magnify all of the things that sprung from the issue. Because there was a miscommunication, this person did this, said this, or did some type of action against me, which now is the reason why I don't like them. I have something against them. Okay? Can't stand this individual. Okay? When in reality, the root cause of the issue could be very minor. But these spirits, because they cause offenses, like to magnify the issues greater than what they actually are. So we have to be careful when we operate with one another and understand that, hey, there's going to be many things that are going to take place between brothers and sisters. Brothers and sisters, they argue, they disagree, but nonetheless, we're still brothers and sisters at the end of the day. Okay? But the spirits like you to focus on the negative aspect so that now you can feel justified in an offense. Okay? Go ahead.
Verse 12. And these spirits shall rise up against the children of men and against the women, because they have proceeded from them.
Right. So they shall attack the children of men and women because they proceeded from them. Okay. So we would be the chief targets of demonic attacks. Okay. All right, let's leave it off with, let's see here. The Testament of Asher, chapter 6, verse 4 through 5. You can read it off up here.
For the latter ends of men do show their righteousness or unrighteousness.
Right. So the scripture tells us that the latter end of men do show up their righteousness or unrighteousness, which means what? You can't tell someone's righteousness by what they are or who they are at the current moment. Okay? Someone could operate today, the spirit of righteousness. Tomorrow they could fall. Right? So it's the latter end of a man that determines his righteousness or unrighteousness. Okay? Go ahead.
When they meet the angels of the Most High and of Satan.
When is this? On the day of judgment. Go ahead.
For when the soul departs troubled, it is tormented by the evil spirit, which also it served in lust and evil works.
So when the evil, or when the soul departs troubled, it is tormented by the evil spirit, which also it served. So as Christ told us simply, you can only serve one of two masters. Whoever we serve, whoever we give our souls over to, our flesh, our bodies over to, that same exact entity will take control of us once our soul departs from our body. Okay? So if we serve sin, we shall be the eternal servants of damnation. If we serve the Most High, we shall be the servants of eternal righteousness. Okay? Why is this important again? When we look into the information concerning the sons of Belial, as we covered, these particular creatures and beings are at war with us daily, attempting to keep us from obtaining the prize or the gift of everlasting salvation. It's them that seek to keep us burdened and oppressed, attacked, and afflicted so that we can forget that we're fighting for the everlasting salvation of our souls. Okay? So we must continue to be sober and continue to be vigilant and watch out and see or look for when these beings are using their tactics to keep us in a state of operating in the flesh, which eventually will lead us into the same judgment of them along with their fathers, which is being chained in everlasting damnation and everlasting destruction and eternal hellfire. Okay? So we're going to leave it off there. And that concludes today's Sabbath lesson. So,